Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to give you the essential insights you need to stay ahead. Now, we often talk about, the climb up the corporate ladder, innovation strategies, scaling businesses, but there's this moment, a really critical one for senior executives, that gets far less airtime, deciding when to step away.
It's true. It's not just about hitting a certain age or financial target. It's deeply strategic.
Absolutely. And get this, poorly managed C-suite transitions, they wipe out almost $1 trillion in market value annually, just in S&P 1500 companies.
$1 trillion. It's an astonishing figure, isn't it? And it really underscores a key point you see from places like Harvard Business Review, from McKinsey. For senior leaders, the timing of your exit can honestly be as impactful, maybe even more so, than the strategies you put in place during your tenure.
It really frames it as legacy protection, doesn't it? How you cement everything you've built over decades.
Exactly. It's about ensuring that legacy endures.
So this is episode 3 in our Deep Dive series, analyzing your transition timeline, when to stay, when to go, and how to know the difference. Our goal today is to give you a solid framework for navigating these transitions, focusing really hard on that when question. And like you said, it's bigger than just retirement planning. It's about legacy. It's about the health of the organization. We've pulled insights from HBR, McKinsey, top advisory firms.
And the most effective leaders, they really grasp this. They understand that knowing precisely when to step aside gracefully, well, it might be the most consequential decision they make.
Yeah, not just another item on the to-do list. It's a strategic move.
A move that can amplify everything you've worked for rather than letting it fade.
Okay, let's unpack that $1 trillion loss again, because, wow, that just screams, pay attention.
Right? It absolutely does. It tells you this isn't some minor detail to figure out later. It's a core strategic issue.
Your departure isn't just the end point. It's this critical moment that can protect, maybe even enhance, the legacy you've spent a career building. It's about lasting influence.
Couldn't agree more. Think of it like the ultimate leadership act, really. Orchestrating a smooth transition that safeguards the future while cementing your own achievement.
But if the stakes are so high, the data so clear, why do so many incredibly smart, capable executives seem to get the timing wrong?
That's where the psychology comes in. And it's tricky. Lloyd Blankfein, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, summed it up brilliantly. He said, when times are tougher, you can't leave. And when times are better, you don't want to leave.
That's such a perfect description of the trap, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That emotional tug of war must be incredibly strong.
It really is. And you see it reflected in tenure data. For S&P 500 CEOs, something like 39% have tenures of just 1 to 5 years. Another 28% are in the 5 to 10-year bracket, which suggests, many are either leaving too early, maybe under pressure, or perhaps sticking around too long because, well, it's hard to let go. The signals get blurry.
And that underlying challenge, after decades of being the go-to person in a crisis, the idea of not being that person anymore, that must hit deep. Fears about relevance, identity.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just changing jobs, it's potentially redefining who you are when your identity is so tightly woven with your title. Stepping away is a huge shift.
How do leaders even begin to prepare for that, beyond the financials and the org chart?
It's a profound question, and interestingly, the data offers a slight twist. First-time public company CEOs. Their tenures are actually about 1.8 years longer than leaders who've been CEO before.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
It does, right? But it suggests that while experience gives you perspective, knowing when to leave isn't automatic. It takes real self-awareness, reading the subtle signs. It's moving from just a gut feeling to a disciplined, thought-out decision.
Okay, so that disciplined decision.
Yeah.
That leads us to what the research, like McKinsey's, calls the 18-month rule for C-suite transitions.
Yes, the 18-month rule. And it's not just a random number. It's this critical window. It creates vulnerability for the organization, yes, but also real opportunity if managed well.
And the key insight is that the transition doesn't end on your last day. It actually starts long before and continues long after.
Exactly. Your departure kicks off what's effectively an 18-month adjustment period for the entire organization. Think about strategy, teams, relationships, knowledge transfer. It all gets impacted. The ripples keep spreading.
So if you're even thinking about a move, You need to start the succession planning engine well in advance. It's not just about picking someone.
Right. It's about ensuring your successor has the time and support to navigate their own 18-month transition successfully once they step in. It's like passing the baton in a relay. You can't just drop it.
Which highlights the need for a proper exit strategy, not just an entry one.
Precisely. Just like you onboard someone new, you need deliberate offboarding, systematic knowledge transfer, handing over key relationships, ensuring critical projects continue.
Yeah, skipping that seems like leaving a massive hole.
It can, because organizational stability is fragile during these times. Companies are more vulnerable to mistakes, key people leaving, competitors making moves.
You've got the outgoing leader maybe winding down, the incoming leader ramping up. That gap can be dangerous.
Which is exactly why the research emphasizes treating retirement or departure as an active strategic transition process. For both the individual and the organization, it needs real planning, real attention.
Okay, so the really strategic leaders, they start signaling their intentions maybe 18 months out.
That's the finding. And it's not about checking out early. It's about being strategically proactive. That time frame allows for proper succession development, deep knowledge transfer, market positioning. It protects everyone's interests.
And you see better outcomes when companies do this.
Measurably better, yes. In leadership continuity, market performance. It pays off.
So why 18 months specifically? What happens in that window?
Well, several critical things. Developing internal candidates properly. That takes a good 12, 15 months of focused effort and exposure. Then you've got stakeholders, the board, investors, key clients, they need time to adjust. Critical projects need careful handover or completion. And maybe most importantly, transferring that deep, often tacit institutional knowledge. That takes time and a systematic approach. You just can't rush it.
It reframes the whole idea. It's not a countdown. It's a strategic ramp down that actually builds future momentum.
Exactly.
So to navigate this effectively, you need some kind of guide. And that brings us to this transition readiness scorecard idea.
Yes, this scorecard is a diagnostic tool. It helps make the process proactive rather than reactive, which is often where things go wrong. It breaks readiness down into key areas.
Okay, let's walk through those components. What's first?
First up, and it's crucial, is your financial architecture. This carries a weight of 25%. And the key insight here isn't just about being wealthy, it's about having strategic freedom. That means having a liquid runway of, say, 2-3 years of funding after you step down.
2 to 3 years.
Okay. That runway gives you independence. It lets you make the right decision about timing, not one forced by financial pressure. This also involves optimizing equity, validating post-career income streams like consulting or board seats, and sorting out estate planning.
Makes sense.
And here's a surprising stat. Only about 64% of financial advisors themselves have a succession plan. You see similar gaps among executives. So getting your personal financial house absolutely in order is foundational.
Yeah, that advisor statistic is telling.
Ah.
Okay, what's next on the scorecard?
The component with the highest weight, 30%, is succession planning maturity. Think of this as your organization's insurance policy for the future.
Right.
Are there at least 2 viable, well-developed internal candidates ready to step up? Is the board aligned on what kind of leader is needed next? Can critical functions operate without you? Are knowledge transfer systems actually working?
And the research suggests starting this early.
Very early. Experts recommend starting CEO succession planning 3 to 4 years out. Any longer, things get unpredictable. But if you haven't started by then, you're arguably already behind the curve.
Okay, 30% for succession. What's after that?
Next, at 20%, is market conditions analysis. This looks outward. It's not just about your readiness, but is the market ready? Are you aligned with industry cycles? Is the competitive landscape stable or volatile? Are there big regulatory changes coming? What are the broader economic indicators saying? You want to time your move when external conditions are favorable too.
Aligning internal readiness with external opportunity. Got it. What else?
Then comes a very personal one. Personal energy and motivation audit weighted at 15%. This requires real honesty.
Right.
Are you still genuinely energized by the challenges or running on fumes and muscle memory? Can you clearly articulate a compelling vision for the next 3-5 years? Are your stakeholder relationships still growing or just routine? Are you pushing innovation or mostly protecting the status quo? And the tough truth here, I think, is that competence isn't the same as passion. Just because you can keep doing the job doesn't mean you should.
That's a hard distinction to make sometimes. Okay, one component left.
Yes, the final 10% is the external opportunities pipeline. This is about proactively building what comes next for you. What are your prospects for board seats? Is there real market demand for you as an advisor or consultant? Opportunities to teach or speak? Potential investment partnerships. It validates your ongoing value and paves the way for a smooth transition.
Okay, so that scorecard gives a really comprehensive picture. Now, how do you translate that score into action? You mentioned lights, green, red, yellow.
Exactly. Think of them as indicators. A green light basically says, conditions are optimal, you're ready. This means you've hit major strategic goals, the succession pipeline is strong with genuinely ready internal candidates, your own energy is shifting towards what's next, leaving now would actually enhance your legacy, and market timing looks good. That's the sweet spot.
Okay, makes sense. What about red lights?
Red light indicators are clear signals to wait. If the company's in crisis mode, definitely wait. If there's a real gap in succession, no viable internal options, wait. Significant market volatility, probably wait. Also, if you're midstream on a critical strategic project only you can realistically lead, or if your board and key stakeholders strongly feel your continued leadership is vital right now, those are red lights.
Got it. And yellow. Proceed with caution.
Precisely. The yellow light zone is nuanced. Maybe there are big regulatory or competitive shifts happening where your continuity could be good, but maybe a fresh perspective is needed. It's uncertain. Personal or family timing factors might put you in the yellow zone, or if there are major M&A deals brewing, maybe your leadership is key to closing it, or maybe a successor is better placed for the integration phase. It requires careful judgment.
So this really emphasizes being proactive, doesn't it? Preparing years in advance isn't checking out. It's building strength.
Absolutely. It's about building institutional strength that lasts beyond any one leader. It's actively building momentum for the future, not just winding down.
How do you build that momentum practically?
Well, a few key ways. First, really systematic institutional knowledge documentation. Capture not just what you decided, but how you thought, your frameworks. Embed that strategic DNA.
Okay.
Second, relationship transition mapping. Don't just hand over a list of names. Systematically introduce your successors to key stakeholders, internal and external. It's strategic handover.
That seems critical. What else?
Then, decision-making authority graduation. Give potential successors increasing scope and authority on real decisions. Let them build credibility and learn while you're still there to guide. And finally, evolve the strategic narrative. Start shifting the story from individual leadership triumphs to the strength and values of the institution itself. Make the organization the hero.
That's a powerful shift. And this approach helps avoid the pitfalls, right? Staying too long or leaving too soon.
Exactly. Research shows leaders who overstay often see diminishing returns. Think financial services CEOs' longest average tenure, around 8.4 years now, but stakeholders might start questioning relevance eventually.
Right, and leaving too early.
You risk leaving value on the table, personally and for the company. That sweet spot balances your readiness, finishing key initiatives, and favorable market conditions. It's telling that the truly top-performing CEOs often have longer tenures, averaging 15 years in one study, much higher than the typical average. But even they need the wisdom to know when the time is right.
So this is all great theory. Let's make it really actionable for listeners. What are some quick wins, things you could do in the next, say, 30, 60 days?
Okay, quick wins. First, do that transition readiness assessment. Use the scorecard. Be brutally honest with yourself.
Okay.
Second, start a confidential succession conversation with your board chair. Not, I'm leaving, but let's talk strategically about the future.
Good framing.
Third, do a deep financial architecture review with your advisors. Model scenarios. Know your runway cold. Fourth, quietly explore your external opportunity pipeline. Talk to a couple of search firms. Gather market intel on your options. And fifth, launch a personal legacy documentation project. Start capturing your key decision frameworks, relationship maps. It helps succession planning anyway.
Those are solid first steps. What about the longer view, say 12, 18 months out? The long-term roadmap?
Right.
Yeah.
Over that time frame, actively expand exposure for succession candidates. Get them in front of the board, key clients. Help them build their network. Plan meticulously for strategic initiative completion. Decide what you need to finish, what can be handed over smoothly. Work with your team on market timing optimization. Keep an eye on those external factors. Start building your personal brand architecture for what's next, maybe selective speaking, an advisory role. Systematically manage the relationship transition process we talked about. And work with your board on evolving governance to support a smooth handover when it happens.
It's a really comprehensive plan. How do you know if you're actually succeeding? Are there metrics to track?
Yes. Absolutely. You need metrics. Track your succession readiness index. Aim for 2 viable options, scoring high, say 80% plus in current on competencies. Monitor your financial transition score target, that 2.5 years of liquid runway being locked in 18 months before your target departure. Keep tabs on stakeholder confidence tracking. You want high confidence, maybe 90% plus VESH from the board, investors, key partners about leadership continuity. Track your strategic initiative completion rate. Aim for 95% of your critical projects being on track for handover or completion.
Makes sense. Keep the momentum.
Exactly. Analyze market positioning. Aim for favorable conditions across most, say, 80% of your key indicators. And regularly assess legacy enhancement. How does staying versus going impact your legacy and the company's value? Aim for positive impact either way.
And don't forget the personal side.
Absolutely crucial. Do a quarterly personal energy and effectiveness assessment. Are you still performing at a high level? Is the enthusiasm genuine? Or are you just going through the motions? Be honest.
These metrics really tie it all together, giving you a way to manage the process actively.
They provide discipline, ensuring your strategy stays aligned with both your goals and the organization's needs.
Wow. We have covered a lot today, from the huge financial stakes of transitions, the psychological challenges, that critical 18-month window, to the scorecard and actionable steps. It really underscores that this isn't just about stepping down. It's a final, powerful act of leadership that shapes your legacy.
It really is. It's about being as strategic and impactful in your exit as you were throughout your tenure. Proactive planning is key.
So here's a final thought for you, our listeners. Considering everything we've discussed, the impact on market value, on stability, on legacy, how might your own intentional, strategically timed exit actually become your most powerful act of leadership, securing the future of the very organization you've dedicated so much to build? Something to reflect on as you navigate your own journey. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.